And we're live.
What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to Coffee with a Cop on Chris the Cop's channel. And if you're an observer here of things, clearly Chris isn't here. So I have been tasked with hosting the stream, and I intend to do that. I am Josh from Only Cops. You guys should be familiar with me if you're familiar with Chris. So what's going on? We're here to answer questions. We're going to be on for a little while, and I have been joined by two people. We have SWAT Theory, who you should also all be familiar with. SWAT is near and dear to my heart and a menace to my channel, as always. I love and adore Saucy SWAT. Obviously, he does our... I think you've done a couple of Coffee with the Cops, have you not? And
yeah, I've lost track. I think I'm 3 or 4.
Yeah, he's on our Tactical Tuesdays, and so y'all's explanation for this thing is that we bring on law enforcement people, whether former, current, or prior. Oh, I guess former and prior are the same thing. And then we answer questions. And our whole idea here is to humanize the badge or to just try to educate people. We do Thursday streams on this stuff. And then Chris will come back. I believe he's coming back on Tuesday to getting on his regular stuff. Go check out Chris's channel. He's got a lot of really cool stuff. He's going to be back on doing, I don't remember which games he's going to be Let's Playing, but he's got a lot of Let's Plays he's going to do. He's done Detroit Becoming Too Human and a bunch of other stuff. So if you're watching... now go ahead and subscribe to this channel and go ahead and check out everybody else's. I'm going to let SWAT give an intro, and then we have 22Rook, who I think you can see his little box here. We'll let him give an introduction. But SWAT, go ahead and give your intro.
All right. Hey, everybody. It's me, SWAT Theory. I'm currently working towards my 9th year in law enforcement. I'm 5 years in SWAT. Currently work second shift, and I say questionable things that I'm surprised haven't got my own channel or others closed down yet. So, oh, right. If you've not been subscribed to Only Cops, or I think Whiskey's also started to pick up as well.
68 Whiskey, my guy.
Yeah, or Chris's channel. You should subscribe. And if you don't, I'll drown a sack of puppies. So.
All right, 22Rook. He is he's got the very beautiful, I believe it's a St. Michael. I can't read because it's blurry from this distance. He is in my lower right-hand corner next to Fox Commander. Go ahead and give yourself an introduction to the audience, and we'll get started.
Howdy, folks. I'm 22Rook. I don't have quite the amount of experience some of these guys do. I'm going on 7 months right now, so I am brand new, still learning everything, kind of putting everything together.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us. Like I said, I am Josh from Only Cops. If you guys don't know, I was a Arlington police officer from 2017 to 2021. And that was a fun time, and then not a fun time, and then really not a fun time. So I'm here to say all the disparaging things that can be said about law enforcement, so I have the freedom to do that. Understand if you ask certain questions to either SWAT or to 22Rook that they're going to have to give you a semi-political answer to that. And I can give you guys the uncensored one. It's what Chris brings me on here for, and we're going to start addressing it. If you guys have any questions, put them in the chat box. I am looking at them. I think we have Fox. Where did we get these from? Was this
Discord questions?
Discord questions. So I'm going to start off on these Discord questions, and then we will start addressing. Oh, Caitlin's here. I recognize you from our streams. And then producer Juan's saying hi from the East Coast. He's closer to 22Rook than either of us. Normally, he's closer to me than anyone. They kidnapped Chris. Yes, we kidnapped Chris, and we put him in the basement. Go check for Chris on your milk cartons. So I want to say thank you to everybody that's popped in here and everybody that's here to ask questions. So the first one was from Fox, F-O. I don't think that's Fox Commander, but he's asking why Chris hates cops. So I'm going to start with theories, and I'll let you guys do backup. 22Rook, I don't know that he knows Chris well enough, but I'm going to assume that when Chris was a young man, that he had a really negative experience where a cat went up to him and asserted his dominance on him in a way that might be seen as ritual mating or whatever it is. And this has scarred him for his life, and that's why Chris doesn't like cats. SWAT, what is your theory?
I'm not going to lie. I totally misheard the question. Thought, why was it Chris doesn't like cops? And when you said a cat went up, I'm like, I don't like where this is going. I mean, I still don't like where it's going, but I think he's of the school of Ron Swanson's thought of any dog under 40 pounds is a cat, and cats are useless.
I like it. I like it. 22Rook, do you have any theories on why Chris doesn't like cats?
I can only imagine he was absolutely embarrassed by a cat.
How about that?
Ginger
I don't know him well enough to know.
I got it. I'm going to address it here. So, Ginger Ninja, who is a frequent person on my Patreon group as well, I want to give a big special thank you for monetizing this stream. Between SWAT and I, we're going to do everything in our power to demonetize it. So, thank you for monetizing this stream for us. He's asking how everyone is. I know I am well rested in my civilian life where I work from home and I am a meme lord for money. SWAT, how are you doing?
I was actually getting ready to pull it up. I have 401 hours of overtime. That's how I'm doing.
Jesus. Go ahead. 22Rook, I know how you're doing, but go ahead and elaborate on what it's like to be a police officer in Northern California right now.
It's hit or miss.
It's hit or miss.
It really is, because there's a lot of things that we can still do in California that's beneficial to the public and actually involves arresting people. But a lot of the laws and it comes down all the way from the tip top of the California legislature down to the city micromanaging every little thing we can and cannot do. And it's hard to keep up. They change so many things all the time. Like even just from 7 months ago when I was in the academy to now, certain things have already changed and new things are being proposed that would prevent us from basically going further in our investigations and actually catching criminals to just patting them on the back and letting them go each time we find them.
Yeah, and I'll say this, like, and SWAT and I's experience in this is similar but different. So, like in Texas, for instance, like when I was coming out of academy, they had just made a constitutional carry happened while I was still on patrol. So we went from CHLs and concealed carry license to everyone could carry unless you were a prohibited person. And then they also made it to where like you used to not be able to carry like a longer than a 5.5-inch blade. So like literally people would walk around with rulers every time they saw a knife and would measure it. If not, it was UCW, which is a felony in Texas prior to, I think it was 2018 when they changed the law.
Jesus.
And so we had small changes like that where something would become like less or more prohibited or less prohibited, but we weren't having like fundamental changes in how we could conduct investigations. Like SFSTs didn't out of nowhere become invalid or something like that. And so like my experience in it was generally aspects of the law or like elements of the offense might change, but it didn't affect my ability to go and enforce the law that's already on the books. I think it's pretty egregious. Some of the stuff you were describing earlier about not being able to do like investigative stops, which is wild to me. I'm like, that's 90% of the traffic stops I did. Like if I was stopping you for a moving violation only, it had to be something really egregious. You had to like blow a red light in front of me or be going so fast that like I didn't need a radar gun or like I didn't need to pace you to know that you were out, driving to. I didn't stop for anything other than this guy's leaving a trap house. I'm going to find a moving violation on this guy so I can detain that car. But so what the biggest change for me was CHL's constitutional carry becoming a thing, and then knives. You can carry fucking samurai swords and spears now in Texas. Don't think I know Dallas had it to where anything under 2 ounces of weed was only going to be a citation, but I wasn't affected by that. And I think it's still policy that as long as it's a usable amount in Arlington, you can still arrest.
It's a lot to use.
Well, I'm like 2 ounces is a lot. I'm like, bro, is it like you and your friends?
That's like enough for like Snoop and Willie Nelson in the morning, man. That's 2 ounces is not insignificant.
What was the biggest change for you, SWAT, as far as from when you started to now, like that, like changed the way that you were enforcing stuff?
Ooh. Oh, the things I want to say.
And procedurally speaking, because you're in compliance with the law, right? And you're in compliance with the policies being asked upon you, but like because his is coming down from the state. Ours was more oftentimes than not a policy thing within the department. It was very rare Austin came out and said we couldn't do something. Yeah,
so I'd say the most annoying change, just as a personal pet peeve, is our drug policy. Every time we tag something, which I guess comes from the state down, we have to change. Like if If it's pills, you can't give a color. You have to give weight. And we can't do weight. Now you got to do how many dosage units. Okay, you can't do dosage units. You got to do weight and color in case they break. Okay, well, it's got to be double bagged in case it's in fentanyl. Well, if it's in its original wrapper and you put it in the bag, okay, that's fine. Now, if you did it this way, you got to put it with this container. Well, now you got to take the container out and throw it away. But we've had our drug policy change like 18 times in the last 8 years, and it's been infuriating. But the biggest change I see coming down the road, and it scares me, is I've been keeping my eye on this. Illinois is about to put in a zero cash bail policy where, so yeah, you don't have to post cash for bail for anything less than a murder, rape, and I think that's it. Like you can rob somebody and you can be let out, no cash bail. You can beat the ever-loving snot out of your wife and be out like the next day, no cash bail. You can burglarize someone's house, steal a car, abduct a kid. It doesn't matter as long as it's not murder or I'm not even sure if rape counts. I'll have to.
I don't think it does.
Look it up. Yeah. It's like murder is like the only thing that keeps you in there, and like that's it. Like,
and I'm pretty sure. I think for them, like the burden of proof falls on the state to prove that you're some sort of flight risk or something. And I'm sure the standard for that's stupid high, like stupid high.
What, to be a risk? Oh no, it is absolutely stupid high. So we have something similar where I'm at, where they give you a point system, and here's what gets messed up. To give you an idea of just how screwed up the system is, say you have a teacher that's sexually assaulting children in their school, and they're trying to see if they're going to be a risk to the community or a flight risk. They ask simple questions. Have you had a permanent residence in the last 6 months? If it's yes, 0 points. If it's
what?
Yeah, if you had a permanent address in the last 12 months, it's 1 point. If you're transient, it's 2 points. What was the other question? Do you have a source of income or do you have a full-time job? Yes, 0 points. Part-time job, 1 point. No job, 2 points. So you can see how this is starting to add up. Are you native to the area? Yes, 0 points. Recently moved in, 1 point. Lived here less than 6 months, 2 points. So you get somebody who's native in the community, and they're doing some heinous stuff. This is really hard. You wind up with this predator that doesn't meet the requirements for a high cash bail. So they just go, okay,
shit,
behave till your next court hearing. Oh, that's the other one. Have you ever had a court hearing in the last 6 months? Or have you ever had a failure to appear warrant? Have you ever been in trouble for a felony? Like, so theoretically, you can get a teacher who's been diddling kids for years, just got caught, doesn't meet the criteria to be held in jail.
Jesus. Yeah, that we hang people for less in Texas. So
I know. If it wasn't for your heat, I'd move down there.
Rook, go ahead and explain the law that I was talking about as far as investigative stops for the audience, because I don't know. This is new to me. So
Yeah, so the city, and I don't know how many people are aware of this. So there's state law, and then you have city like ordinances, city rules, and the policies created by the city, and then you have department policies as well.
Yeah.
So all these things govern us over the law. It can be a lot tighter than the law, even though the law says we're allowed to do certain things. So they're trying to take away, a lot of the reasons that we do traffic stops is to kind of see what's inside the car. We're interested in that car. We want to find the guns, the drugs, the felons. We want to know what's going on in there. But basically, they're trying to push something through that would prevent those stops, and the stops would be traffic only. At which point, for all intents and purposes for patrol, it'd almost be useless.
I was about to say 100% useless. Like, that's not.
Yeah.
One of the things I had a really good sergeant when I was on patrol. He was former narcotics officer, and when he got promoted, they make you come back out to patrol. And his question was, if you are not stopping a car with a safety interest in mind, and he meant safety for the community, what the fuck are you doing? So he goes, again, if it's an egregious moving violation, well, they're becoming unsafe for other drivers, right? Now, if it's someone's speeding a little bit, that's not unsafe. As long as they're not tailgating somebody or something like that, or they're not, cutting people off or whatever. Or again, he goes, if, we have people of interest that are, making death threats on the internet, we can tie it to a car. And you see that car, find a moving violation, stop the car, talk to the guy, get the guy ID'd, get some information on him so that we can start doing that type of stuff. It's like you said, for patrol, we have motors units that their whole deal is to make sure that people are driving the way they're supposed to. And if you want to be a ticket machine, go be a state trooper. But like, it's just a very different, it's just a very different objective. I have a question here. This is from Boom Donuts 999, and he asked, "Is the rivalry between cops and firefighters true? The same thing for lawyers. Do cops and lawyers really hate each other?" I have my answer for this, but I can let y'all go first.
So I'm gonna try and make this long story a little shorter. So it depends on the locale, but for us, we're pretty friendly. They'll invite us into their stations for like Christmas dinner if we're working, or if we're just hanging out and they're cooking, we happen to drive by, they'll offer food. Like we're pretty chill with the firefighters. But like every job, you get that one asshole or that one dickhead that tries to ruin it for everybody. Or in our case, once upon a time, you arrest half the fire department for abusing pain pills and selling prescription medications and stuff. Yeah, that one kind of made Thanksgiving awkward. So where's half your friends? Oh, right.
That's right. I put them in prison. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Can you pass the gravy without the spit? But, so I think that was years ago. I think I was maybe like 10, 11 years old when that happened. So things have obviously kind of gone from bumpy to smoothed out. So yeah, it just depends. Some bigger cities, maybe it's more of like a friendly rivalry, like Notre Dame and Purdue or whatever big football teams hate each other. But it is still, at the end of the day, it's still a game.
Yeah.
Now, as far as attorneys go, all the times I've been in court, I've actually kind of had this strategy for a while. I've always been kind of friendly with them. Mm-hmm. Like I'd let them know, yeah, it's you're doing your job, I'm doing mine. There's no reason for me to sit up here and be an asshole. There's no reason for you to be an asshole. Let's just get through this, just the facts, that sort of thing. And we'd laugh and talk. And there's this one. I was in court, and there's this one big, heavy-set black dude from Chicago. It was like a high-dollar attorney that I had to go because I pulled a stolen gun and like 20 ounces of dope off this guy. And yeah, he was looking at a long time in the adult playpen, and we were sitting joking, talking about Breaking Bad. We were having a good old time, and it was actually really pleasant. 'Cause I was talking with him. He's like, You're actually pretty friendly for most officers. They get kind of like, dude, I get it. He's paying a lot of money for you to come down here to not go to prison. I pulled a gun and drugs off of him on national television. So I don't know what he's fighting, but he's paying you money to do your job. So, I mean,
you go get it. It's your bad self.
You go after it. And it was the most amazing thing. This dude was looking at like 50 years, and the attorney basically just went, Your Honor, can we just, for all intents and purposes, I forgot what he said. He's like, under advisement. I know he's been an officer for this long, this, that, and the other. Can I just skip to this part of his stop that I'd like to just get done? And the thing he attacked for me was like, I gave the description of the guy, which was black male wearing a camouflage shirt with pants sagging in an alleyway or something. And he says, "Officer, is it illegal to do these things?" And I explained, "Well, no, sir, it's not. However, due to the reasonable suspicion I have and the fact that he had just left someone's yard, I didn't know if a burglary had just occurred or criminal activity was afoot given the time of day, and that's why I stopped him." And he goes, "I understand that. Your Honor, I'd like to move to suppress the evidence under this case law from Florida, which is like you can't stop somebody solely on an anonymous tip." I forget the exact name of it. And for a fleeing or an anonymous tip. And the other one was making a stop or a case on an anonymous tip. And the judge, they said, "Well, okay," but he talked to the other suspect who was his accomplice, who gave his description and said he was there to buy something from somebody. So I'll take that under advisement, and we'll move the court date forward. Do you have any more questions for the officer? "No, ma'am. I'm with this gentleman." He's like, "No, ma'am." I was like, "Really? Holy shit, I just saved myself a grilling up here because this guy's going for 50 years and you just wanted to get straight to the case." Yes. So I've gotten pretty lucky with prosecutors. So I think it's just all your mindset. If you guys go in there hating each other, not understanding, it's just a game. You're in it to get paid. Don't lie. But everybody knows what you're there to do. So that's what my experience has been. I don't know if Rook's been on long enough to have much court experience or anything like that. But
yeah, that'd be my first question. Rook, have you gone to court yet?
Yeah, I've been there a few times.
Been there a few times.
Damn.
I do work for a big, busy city, so
Sure.
you get things pretty regularly. As far as firefighters go out here, they're our pals. They make barbecues for us all the time. Like, they cook food for us. They're always trying to help us out. They're super helpful. We kind of play back and forth on the whole, leather chairs and sleeping during your shift kind of thing. But that water under the bridge, I'm sure.
Sure.
And then as far as lawyers go, I think it's really dependent on each other's personalities. But like, we have a certain, like, the big traffic lawyers each city has. They're like the main guy that comes and does everyone, because they call him to try to fight their ticket.
And all that shit.
Yeah, exactly. You have like 3 of those a city, and it really depends. Like, 2 of them here will try to like sneak around you and make a deal and then lie to the judge. But there's one guy that he'll call you before the court starts, and he'll say, "Hey, tell me what happened." And he'll either say, "All right, well, I'm going to fight it," or you can plea it down to this, or he'll say, "All right, pleaded guilty. Don't even bother showing up."
That's sketchy. I wouldn't take an opposing counsel's attorney saying, "Yeah, don't bother showing up."
Yeah, fuck you on that shit. I'm for sure showing up.
Wait a minute, something ain't right here.
Yeah, but so I'll say this about fire, and my experience. I had 6 different fire stations or 5 different fire stations that handled my area of responsibility. And so I had like 3 that I adored. Like, they were fucking awesome. Their fire lieutenant was great. Like, they're really good. I had 2 that we had issues. Like, they were like, hey, I'd be on an interstate highway having to shut down traffic, working a DWI accident. And they're like, hey, so there's not a fire. Is it cool if we clear? And I'm like, no, it's 2:00 in the morning and I don't want to get slammed into by a car. So leave your fucking fire truck there. And there was points where I had to call like supervisors to force them to stay. Anyways, I've had both, but I don't know that there's a rivalry because the responsibilities are very different. I could see a rivalry from one police department to another, or from one work group to another within police departments. But like, what do we do that's the same? Now, I can replace a firefighter with a fire extinguisher, or just a little bit of know-how and a fire blanket. But like, we just don't do the same job. We're not, versus like, especially if you have like overarching jurisdiction. So if you have county law enforcement that can operate within your city, or you have federal agents that operate with your city, it's not a rivalry per se. You just have shared interest. And I think this is where lawyers come in, where it's not a rivalry per se, but I think it's just that we are 2 sides of the same coin. And ultimately, our jobs, if doing it the right way, I like good lawyers. I don't like shitty ones. In the same way that I like good cops, not shitty ones, because good ones are just simply trying to protect the constitutional rights of their employer, which would be the individual. In the same way that good cops are just trying to do the same thing. As long as you're like not fucking around, I could give 2 shits about what you're doing, to be 100% honest. My interest in you doing weed, I could care less. If you were able to do meth by yourself in your house and make it yourself and not get into gunfights with people and not do dope rips, I honestly wouldn't care, to be honest. I have no interest sitting there going around in panel vans with listening devices. If you're doing it in your own home, I have no interest in it. It's once you start interacting with the public, once you start becoming a menace and stuff like that. And good lawyers want an expeditious case. They realize their part to play. And the same thing with judges, same thing with whatever. So I like good ones. I cannot stand shitty ones, or I cannot stand like the case chasers. It was really bad in Texas, where anytime there was a use of force and they just looked up resisting charges on our county courthouse stuff. And if they saw a resisting charge, they would look at the case and see as to whether or not they could sue the city for it. And they're not looking for constitutional rights protections. They're looking for lawsuits. Civil attorneys are kind of cancer versus, I think, criminal attorneys. Most of them are actually pretty good dudes. I've never had a real big issue with attorneys. That's my 2 cents on it. I'm reading chat real quick. Chris has been evicted. This chat's out of control. Let's see. It's funny when it gets more likes than Chris does. Damn. Y'all are savage. Hey, we need what? Hey, Fox, what's our target thing for likes so that we can troll Chris and say that we did a better job without him?
50.
Hit 50. Okay, we are
69.
We're going for 69 likes. If we get 69 likes on this, we'll say something funny. I don't know. We'll do something. We're doing it to troll Chris.
I know exactly what we can do. Hang on.
What?
You'll like this. Hang on.
I'm scrolling in the chat real quick while SWAT hopefully does something not illegal. I have questions still to address.
Keep holding on. Keep holding on.
Holding.
Okay. All right. Whatever you were holding on to, you can let go of it. I'm back.
Okay, I'm letting go.
All right. So
if we get 69 likes, what happens?
Okay, I might regret this. I'm sure I will, but I have this really bad habit of loving spicy food. But if I eat something as spicy as sour cream, my body breaks out and sweats hilariously bad. So as a joke, one of the rookies I had got me this and said, "Hey, you like spicy food, right?"
No. Oh, you crazy bastard.
So if we hit 69 likes, I will eat this damn thing on stream and see what happens to me.
There it is. 69 likes, bad baby. Get your ghost accounts or your shit posting accounts and start.
Hey, wait, stop! No, don't you dare! Don't you dare! Don't you dare! Don't you dare tell them to cheat.
He said, I'll get all my accounts to like this right now. Oh my god. Okay, so that's our goal for the chat. I thank you everyone who's already dropped likes. We're already at 26. We're almost at.
Can I take my like off? As a matter of fact, I'm gonna take my like off of it. There we go. Now it's back to 25. That gives me a fighting chance today.
So we have a question, and it says, any workout tips for physical tests, or any workout prep for the? I'm guessing PAT is the physical exam.
Physical aptitude test.
Yes,
I'm assuming that's what it is.
I'm gonna say this. I think that there's a lot of people that stress about this portion of the test, right? Or they'll stress about, like, I don't know. One of the things that I heard a SWAT officer say the other day, he said, if you're worried about meeting the standard for SWAT, SWAT's not for you. I'd say the same thing about law enforcement, that if you're worried about the physical aptitude test for policing's probably not for you. And the reason why I say that, they're going to let you in, especially if you're a checkbox guy. Like I'm a brown male in Texas. Okay. I'm a semi checkbox guy. Okay. I at least get one of the checkboxes, right?
Yeah. Does he speak Spanish? No, fuck it. Let him in.
Exactly. Literally, I don't speak Spanish. And they're like, but he's brown enough. We'll go with it. Right. And so like I think a lot of people, I don't know if I'd be able to XYZ. If your only question about yourself as a person is, I don't know that I'd be a good cop, that's a great attitude to have. But if it's, I don't know that I'm going to be able to beat the physical standard, I don't know that I'm going to be able to pass the shooting quals, I don't know that I'm going to have how I'm going to handle seeing a dead body. If you have these types of questions already, I'm not saying don't have the courage to try, because God knows every single police department out here needs bodies. But for you and for your health and for your pride of what you do, I am not going to stand here on stream and suggest you go into law enforcement if these are already questions that you have. That being said, I'm not a fitness expert. I like food. But in general, I would just look at standard PT practices for the military. I'd look at everybody that's got a workout fucking thing. Not everybody, but most people. Your physical fitness has to be a portion of that. If you cannot run a mile and then fight somebody, that's a pretty good barometer. And again, they're posted. I would say that you need to at least be in a standard workout. Like, you could do something for the rest of the day. You're not exhausting yourself to go do this. You should be able to meet the PT standards and it'd be a regular workout for you, as opposed to like you're straining yourself to meet the physical standards for whatever police department you're getting into. And if your police department that you're applying for doesn't have physical standards, run. Those are my 2 cents. I'll let y'all, while I read the chat, I'll let y'all
I'm right there with you. I mean, you should, my personal philosophy is you should be, mental well-being, physical well-being.
Yeah.
My liver would call me a hypocrite. But
I was going to say my fucking pituitary gland would say the same thing, or my whatever the fuck does my hormones. I fucking nuke that thing with caffeine.
But when I took my SWAT test, it was the only thing I was concerned about was when I got on the team, I let my cardio kind of die down before I went out to LA for the test, and there was like a couple runs that it wasn't bad. It's like a 300-meter run and do some stuff, another 300-meter run. which I wasn't too worried about, but I didn't realize I wasn't doing enough cardio stuff. So like out of the 6 or so minutes they give you, my time was like 5 minutes and like 12 seconds. And I was like, oh, that was a little closer than I want it to be, when everybody else is like 3.5, 4 minutes.
Sure.
And they've got this hulking redneck running through. And so I got away from doing more of the powerlifting stuff, or granted, I did at the time, and I got more into cardio. So I would say, like kind of what you said, if you've got a standard workout that you can just stick with, like starting strength is good. When you get enough base strength put up, which it lacks like pull-ups. So if you do that, do pull-ups and upper arm stuff. Otherwise, you look like a T-Rex. Jim Windler's 531's another good one to move on to. Just whatever you do, enjoy what you do, and make sure you add cardio into it. I know everybody freaks out about cardio kills gains and shit, but Arnold Schwarzenegger would run the beach in California or in LA when he would finish his workouts at Gold's Gym. So cardio is important, which I'm getting up there in age. I'm 32 and I still run 2 miles under 16 minutes. So it's not hard. Just consistency. Don't make excuses. Don't not go. Because there's days I'll look at the road or the treadmill and go, fuck. And I'll know what happens. If I lose my cardio, it's a bitch to get back.
Yep.
So and then there's nothing wrong with every couple weeks, like every 2 weeks, just take your department's test and say, all right, it's 25 push-ups in a minute or something, and just knock them out real quick. Like doing basic workout routines and stuff, you'd be surprised how quickly you can be in better shape than most people. So that's my take on it. And then I ran into Bill, who's a fucking
he's an absolute
CrossFit,
stud,
crazy CrossFit juggernaut. When he walked into the bar, I was like, oh, all right.
You know what's crazy? What's wild is like there was a lot of time, and I used to laugh about this. We would get into like a domestic or something like that, and Bill was one of the smaller people we worked with. That's what's crazy, and he's a fit motherfucker, right? And like I was very fortunate and blessed. I had women that I worked with that were bigger than Bill. I had a very blessed shift at times where I was like, yeah, nobody fought us, and if they did, it was a very short fight. When it did come down to that, and no one ran from Bill. That I will also say, Bill could smoke my ass in a foot chase.
Yeah, that's the one good thing I have, being 6'3". I got long legs, and for the most part, everybody's going, "Yes, sir." Yes, like every now and then, I'll get like those fucking like there's those fullback or defensive linemen from the local colleges. They'll get drunk, and I'm like, oh, this one's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
So but stay in shape.
Yeah, Rook fitness advice. Do you have any?
I do have some fitness advice. I happen to work in a place in California. Well, California has a lot of fitness junkies, but especially 100%. In the beach areas, and you absolutely have to be fit to be dealing with these guys. Just in the first, it happened in the first few months of phase training. I had like 4 foot pursuits, and I caught them all because I just take care of my body. But my biggest recommendation is HIIT workouts, high intensity interval. Stuff like box jumps, push-ups, burpees are really good. Prisoners, they do burpees all the time in prison to stay in shape, and that'll give you your stamina and it'll give you strength too. But any sort of HIIT exercises, you can look them up. They're all over the internet. People have recommendations. People have workouts set up. So that's probably the best because it'll work your endurance and your strength.
As someone that's north of 30 years old, I will also tell you, stretch. If you're going to work out, stretch. If you're not going to work out, stretch, because mobility will save your ass as you get older.
Yeah, and if you don't stretch, you get things like this to happen. Oh, come on, do it. Again,
do it.
Well, don't do it. But my shoulder. Oh, that was my elbow. Okay, we're done. My elbow. I've on good days like today it doesn't, but usually this shoulder, if I just flex it forward, it just goes crack. Like. Yeah, didn't warm up, didn't stretch, went to go do overhead press. And done. I'm going home now.
So Jinja Ninja asked if any of us have had any interactions with military police and if we have any interesting stories about it. I did not have a military base in my area of operations, so I never dealt with MPs, but I can explain the difference. Do you guys have MPs that you guys interact with?
Absolutely. In California, we have a million
18 military bases.
Yeah. We, funny story.
He goes, well, now that you mention it.
Yeah, now that you mention it, we just ruined a Navy captain's career the other day. Well, he ruined it himself. He's no longer a Navy captain. He
fuck that guy.
Promoted.
Yeah, well, he beat his wife, and it was captured on camera. And
fuck that
we
guy.
called NCIS on him, and
Ooh.
he was scooped up during work. So that's a yikes. Busted down to E1.
Oh, damn.
That's a bad day.
I'm surprised he wasn't court-martialed. And
Just
no, that's just while they hold on to him, and then they're gonna court-martial him later.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to everybody. We're at 35 likes currently. We're trying to get to 69 so that we can force SWAT Theory to eat the chip. So thank you to everybody who's currently watching. Go ahead and drop a like, and we're also just trying to talk shit so that we can make fun of Chris that we beat his like amount. So go ahead and do that. Shadow Wolf, what's going on? Drop a like. We're trying to get to 69.
So for me, my cousin's actually in the military, and he started his MOS as an MP. He's actually gotten I think he's an E8 or E9 by now.
Yeah.
So he's whenever he goes somewhere, he's pretty much like the highest NCO. And because a lot of the bases they send him to, they really don't have a whole lot of high-ranking MPs. He basically turns into the chief of police for that department, which is kind of cool. Yeah, but when he was growing up, as you would say, through the military, he's been in almost 14 years now, I think.
Damn.
He would have some pretty good stories, like he would stop the base commander's wife for going like 2 over the speed limit, because apparently they're anal retentive about that 10 miles an hour at all times. Mm-hmm. And she got a new car and he didn't realize it. He said he literally walked up, went to ask for their paperwork and stuff. Saw it was her just kind of smiling at him. He basically goes, "Have a good day, man," and just turns and walks off.
Wow.
Well, he was still like a young kid. I think he was like 19, 20 at the time. So he thought, "Oh man, I lost my job," and went back. So to fuck with him, the commander of the base called him into his office that next morning and went, "Shot my wife?" It's like, "Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man." So he asked, "So what'd she do?"
Yeah, what'd she do?
So he's like, "She went over the speed limit." Okay. Do me a favor and go back to your car, write a warning, and bring it back to my desk for her.
Hey, I like it.
Okay. Yeah, so it was funny because that was one of the first times not the first, but one of the times the leadership showed integrity, which kind of built his character up as he went through his ranks in the military. So, but he's had all sorts of crazy shit. He had a drunk cop once wreck into the front gate of the base
Eesh.
right after the terrorist attack in Germany that left like 86 people either injured or killed.
Oh shit! So I'm sure he got handled.
So the guards were like, "Oh shit, it's happening here!" And he gets out and goes, "It's okay, guys, I'm a cop." He's not a cop anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, the MPs are kind of like us. They've got some have crazy stories, but others have kind of meh careers. So,
yeah. But
yeah, they handle almost explicitly military on-base things, whereas regular police handle their jurisdiction. Is the big difference.
Like in Texas, I know we have Colleen. We have a couple different places that they have. Damn near the military police replaces local PD in some of those places, just because the towns are so small and the bases are so big. But yeah, California is. I think you'll have the most military bases for the state.
Yeah,
buckload.
I think so, and they get certified through. So their jurisdiction is definitely the military base, but oftentimes they'll have them go through a regional police academy in their area, so they can still go outside and snatch up the drunk sailors and Marines who are outside the base.
Well, and you'd rather that anyways.
Yeah, you would.
The rules are very different and again, MPs, when MPs are dealing with, and they should only really be dealing with military personnel, but when they're dealing with military personnel, the Constitution applies a lot less, and it's just a very different. There's a lot of different rules at play when you're dealing with that.
It's a very different thing to kick down a door at a house in the civilian world versus the military world.
Yeah.
In the civilian world, you got to have some sort of exception, like exigent circumstances, or you got to have a warrant. In the military, yeah, you call the desk sergeant and he says yay or nay, and you're kicking that door down right then and there.
Yeah. You just got to have a feeling.
Yeah.
On a feeling or a whim. I feel like this door needs to be kicked. And what's funny is you kick a door in our world, right, as municipal police officers or whatever, typically people yell or scream or whatever, and if you've announced beforehand, they'll probably try to run out the back window. You kick a door in the military, the guy goes to attention, and like he's like, "Oh shit, it's my turn," or whatever. It's a wild existence. There was a question here I was gonna get to. Warrior Rage _ says he wants to bring up the amount of incompassionate officers that are in law enforcement. I think there's producer Juan. I am not recording. I think there's two different ways to cut this incompassionate thing. There's your morale's super low and you're working in a shitty city and you're just there because you need to finish to retire or whatever. And then I think that there's incompassionate in the sense that you're desensitized to violence. And there's a difference here, because anybody that's been in the job long enough, that's worked enough successful suicides, or that's worked enough shootings, or that's done enough violent arrests, you're going to be perceived as incompassionate because you genuinely like cannot empathize with people anymore or sympathize with people anymore. Like the violence is very much normalized to you. I talked the other day about having homicidal ideations. And it took me almost 1.5 years of leaving policing to not have them daily. And it's not like I'm sitting there thinking, damn it, I want to kill everybody. It's having to work through the process of, if this person tries to kill me, what am I going to do to address that problem? As I'm walking into because you got to think, your brain's working if I'm in uniform, or if somebody recognizes that I'm a cop, or if I happen to walk into the guy that I put away from prison and the DA decided to no bond him and let him go or whatever. Like, this is kind of where your brain goes in law enforcement. And again, when you get in, I had a wonderful household. My parents were fucking awesome. My friends growing up were fucking awesome. I got into like normal schoolyard boy fights, and like I played football, but like fighting someone that's trying to hurt you just for the sake of fighting you to try to hurt you was very new to me. And once that became normalized to me, like I would say that I'm a lot more desensitized to that type of stuff. And again, I've pointed loaded guns at people. I've said, motherfucker, if you move, I'm going to kill you, all that kind of stuff. Like, this is all stuff I didn't do prior to being a cop. And so I think that makes you pretty desensitized. And then again, a lot of times in that interaction, it might seem seemingly innocuous to you, but if they're failing to deal with that stress in a healthy way, it's going to ooze out in traffic stops, and it's going to ooze out. I was never that way. I was always had a pretty decent handle on it while I was a patrol. It's worse now that I've retired. But I think there's that. And then from a morale standpoint, I've seen that a lot. And I think depending on the bigger the city it is, the more likely you are to run into an officer that's just fucking crushed. And they're going to have low morale, just like you would with a shitty waiter, just like you would with a shitty whatever. Their morale's crushed, and that you're going to hear about it. I think it's unprofessional, and I don't know that it's a good excuse. But I can sympathize with that, because the stress on law enforcement is incredibly unique and different in that it's not just job stress. These guys, both of these guys, have to deal with such a bad stigma in law enforcement that they cannot show their faces on this. Really wrap your head around that. Lawyers don't do that. Judges don't do that. It's very rare that you'll see this, and they're not even worried about like terrorists coming after them. Like, I kind of understand some of the like ops corps guys or the spec ops. They're like, I've done some like semi-illegal shit in other countries. You know, I violated the Geneva Convention a few times, so like I don't want people to know that I am who I am.
Yeah, I've met a couple of those people.
You know what I mean? But here it's genuinely safety. Really wrap your head around that. And it's not unfounded. Like, I'm not making fun of them for that. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I'm out. And at this point, I get to go by civilian standards of shooting people in Texas, which is pretty Gucci. So I'll let you guys try to answer this while I look for other questions.
No, you're fine. You pretty much hit the nail on the head. I had a new guy who he was a vet tech for a few years, and some person's dog or got hit by a car or got killed by another animal or something. Just walk up and be like, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm like, dude, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
Their family member pretty much just died. You can't just do that. So, which I get the lack of empathy, and more apathy grows in its place. It's just like Josh said, it's just the repetition of doing this shit. Like, the first time I saw some girl with like both of her eyes broken into her skull and her nose busted, like, oh my God, this is fucking atrocious. And the third time you're like, that sucks. Where's he at? Like, it's not it's not a matter of being heartless or empathetic. It's more you've just done it so much that it becomes second nature. Kind of like hunting dogs, where you have to take them somewhere and like tie them to a tree or something away from you, and you fire a shotgun off somewhere, not at the dog, and it scares them at first. Then you go comfort and calm them down. You go back, fire it again, and you get these hunting dogs used to, oh, okay, bang usually means not bad. Okay, good. And then bang, and then you throw their ball, they go get the ball. They start to learn, oh, okay, if duck or whatever falls when shot, I get treat. So that's just that repetition of or professional fighting. Everybody is just loath to be punched in the nose. But once you get in a few street fights, you're like, yeah, it's going to hurt for a while. I might have a lump or need to take some ibuprofen, but it's just, I think adaptation is a good word. You just adapt to the job, and it's outside looking in, it just looks atrocious when it's really
awful. Yeah.
You genuinely care and you want to get the piece of shit that just broke this girl's jaw, but they just see it as, oh, he just wants to get this over with so he gets away from her. No, I want to go take this guy to prison, but it's just one of those things where I just, after almost 10 years, you can't go, how heinous. You're like, well, this is fucked up. Where's he at? So I can not return the favor. But I think that's where it comes from for a lot of people. Or maybe you just have those psychopaths who really just don't care.
Those exist. I can confirm that. Those exist.
Yeah.
Rook, do you have anything to add?
I do. So it doesn't even have to go to like the violence or the trauma. It could all go down to like small traffic stuff. My partner and I aren't real big fans of necessarily citing people when we stop them if we can't get anything further. Sure. But like we were just doing Uber driver enforcement because they drive our city absolutely nuts and they drive however they want. And our preference is to basically instead of hammering them with a citation, we hammer them verbally. And that kind of gets the point across. And they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But a lot of people, where the incompassion comes from, I'm getting back to it, is they'll try to they'll make an excuse. So they say, oh, I'm sorry, I was just doing this. And it's like, I don't care. I don't care that you were doing that. You understand what we've seen with people just, oh, I was just on my phone for a second, or I just had to change the volume, or oh, my passenger was distracting me. I'm so sorry. It's like, yeah, you almost ran over that 10-year-old kid that was riding his bicycle right there. Hello? Yeah. Like, I don't want to hear your excuse. I want to hear that you're not going to do it again. I want to hear that you're going to pay attention. You're not going to be sticking your legs out in the road, drinking alcohol, and we leave you alone, and then you get your legs run over, and you call us, and you're like, why didn't you do anything about it? It's like, no.
The example I'll give, and then we'll kind of move on to some of these other questions. We have a lot now. Yay. Drop likes. We're at 39 likes. So if we hit 69, SWAT has to eat a super spicy chip.
I immediately regret this decision.
Oh, it's on his shoulder. It's like looming over his shoulder.
Yeah.
Anyway, drop a like.
It's like the little devil going, you fucked up.
I think it's also like it's parenting adults is a very taxing thing. Like I don't mind. We were watching something this past Thursday about a kid in school, and I was like, yeah, I dealt with minors a lot. I had like 3 middle schools and like a high school, and it was like a big 6A high school in my beats. There was like a fuckload of kids that went there, and so like I had a lot more leash in the sense of I understood why some kids acted out a lot, because there's so many things that are out of their control. They're literally property of their parents, and they're basically in prison until they're 18, which is school. And so they don't have a lot of rights. And so they're kind of subject to their environment. They don't get to pick their friends. They don't get to do any of that stuff until they're adult. Now, adults, I have way less leash on because I'm like, who's making you do anything? And it's just like, that's always constantly. And the example I always give people is every person that's ever annoyed you ever is the only people we deal with all day long, all day, every day. It's the dumbass that's walking in the street, or the dumbass, like you said, that's like has his legs out in the street while he's hammered. And to you get to walk by and be like, ew, oh my God. Where a police officer is going to get 18 complaints about it. And with your luck, it's like a fucking supervisor or something like that, or a fucking lieutenant that's like, oh my God, patrol needs to come out here and go handle this. And that's, you spend 90% of your day dealing with that and petty relationship issues, which I fucking hate. Again, I was a domestic working expert by the end of this, but
I build off that for a second.
Yeah, go for it.
Nothing makes my blood boil fast. I don't have any kids, by the way. We'll hopefully be starting soon. But nothing makes my blood boil as a 32-year-old man having a 28-year-old woman or man or whoever go, my child won't listen to me. Make him do something. I'm like, you're the fucking parent.
Yeah.
Whoop their ass if you need to. Here, borrow my belt.
Yep.
Like, people, I don't know what it is, which I think I know what it is. I think it's kids that grow up and say, well, I'm never going to do that to my child. But
full range.
People think that the Department of Child Services or Child Safety or whatever are going to come if you smack your child's ass. No. If you whoop your child's ass, don't break the skin, don't leave a scar, don't leave a bruise, best you can. Don't break anything, don't make them bleed. You're fine. You can, if your kid goes up to you and goes, Mom, you're a bitch, and you pop them on the mouth.
Pop them on the mouth.
Yeah, it's the things that my parents and grandparents did to me would cause heart attacks with some of the parents I deal with. Oh my God, I never fucked around to find out with my grandfather. I did that once. He said, all right, go get a switch. So I went and got a small stick. He thought that was funny. He went and got a big, burly, like Louisville Slugger bastard. Said, all right, bend over. I'm like, what? I couldn't walk straight for like a week after that. I forgot. Well, I don't even remember what I did. He hit me so hard. So it stuck with me. But all these kids now, when they start motherfucking police, like, I just think my father hears about that. He's like, and they're still alive? Like, I know, Dad. That was 60 years ago for you.
That was 60 years ago. It was a long time. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, that's just one of my pet peeves.
Quick question. Poofy, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Or Chris appreciates it. I'm making him money now. I'm now an employee. Who would win in a hand-to-hand fight? No weapons, no fight. Josh plus Rook versus SWAT Theory. Since I know that Rook is bigger than both me and SWAT, I'm going to vote me and Rook. But I don't know. I think it depends on how motivated we are. Because, like, let's say me and Rook are like, oh, this is going to be a fun game. And, like, nobody tells SWAT Theory we're just coming up to, like, play fight him, and he doesn't realize it's us. He'd fucking eye gouge us or something like that crazy. So it depends on motivation on the fight. But I think if it was a fun we can vote now. Oh, the chat's going to vote. Okay. You can go vote for this. Yeah. But it's a 2-on-1 fight. It's a 2-on-1 fight. So
I will say it would be interesting because when I hired on, I done 7 years of jiu-jitsu or something by that point. And I was the suspect that had to get under control. So at one point I had 3 cops trying to get me controlled, and I was just flipping around them, tossing them off, rolling around. And I was just giggling the whole time.
Jiu-jitsu is a game changer. I got my ass beat by I was 26 at the time, and this man I was 26. I'm 5'11", 220, right? At the time. And this man is like 5'6", 140, and like 55 years old, and fucking mopped the floor with me because I was completely untrained. I had never done jiu-jitsu. I thought it was gypsy magic, and this man damn near literally was like, I was fully mounted by the end of this because I'm trying to fucking fight him, right? And he's like, Josh, get it together. And he's like soft punching me in the face with gloves on. Like, hey, I taught you. This is mount survival. What did I teach you? Like, real, not even breathing hard, not having to work. And I was like, bro, I have 80 pounds on this man in 20 years. What the fuck? And so jiu-jitsu is different. I think if both of us don't have any jiu-jitsu training, fucking SWAT annihilates us. I think
the mindset. The mindset would really be the biggest thing, and the rules of engagement, because if we're trying to control him and we're following like civilian laws, obviously we're going to be doing a lot of grappling, and it all depends on if he's grabbing stuff on our belt, the totality of the circumstances of how long we're fighting with him for.
Well, there'd be no belts because there's no weapons.
There's no weapons. There's no nothing. This is just
there's no weapons for sure. Yeah, it's really the mindset and what we're going for. If we're looking to control him, it's going to be a really hard fight versus if, hey, we're straight up trying to kill this guy. That's a different story.
Yeah.
I just gotta choke the shit out of one of you first.
That's what I meant. Like it's like an eye gouge takes somebody out of a fight real quick, or something like that. You'd be like I said, it depends on motivation, like what they were saying.
One of us would get grabbed by him and probably messed up pretty bad, and the other should be dropping elbows into his skull, and we'll be good to go.
We gotta do
gotta
something
find.
like that.
I gotta find a way to leap through the air like a spider monkey, and I gotta flying triangle Josh, and somehow get a hold of you, and then choke him out of the fight, and then I gotta fucking figure out I'm gonna fight with him like a spider monkey between my legs, trying to just beat the absolute dog pit. This is gonna get stupid. So, but yeah, that'd be my strategy. Just go for throats. I'm not gonna survive a straight up brawl with two guys.
Shout out to everybody. We're at 43 likes. Keep throwing likes into the chat real quick. We're trying to get to 69 just so we control somebody. And so SWAT Theory has to eat that spicy chip.
I've made a huge mistake.
Caitlin has asked if I've ever encountered a suspect, or any of us have ever encountered a suspect that tried to flirt with them to get out of trouble. Yes, multiple times. You guys go.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I had a girl take her top off while I was arresting her. I'm like, okay, that's nice, but you're still going to jail. That was the most ego-deflating moment of someone's life that I've ever witnessed. Like, even they stopped perking up. It was so deflating. But we also have a female officer now that works my shift that we were talking, man, fuck, hey, baby. And they're like, hey, can I talk to her? Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Sure, knock it out.
You're still going to jail, so he'll talk to her and I'll handcuff one wrist. What the fuck? You still drove drunk. You're still going to jail.
Yeah.
So,
Rook, do you have any weird questions or weird calls where people try to hit on you to get out of trouble? While I read the chat.
I've had a guy hit on me before.
Bad California, baby.
I was like, so you're going to jail? No.
That also means that Rook's a looker. Let's see. Have you ever had a corrupt cop on the force while you were there? I didn't have corrupt as in like taking bribes or anything like that. We averaged arresting a cop about once or twice a year in my department. One of our own police. I can hear myself somewhere. I think it's on Rook's for some odd reason. Did you pull out your headphones? I don't know if it's giving feedback on the...
He may have got up to use the bathroom and just forgot to mute for a second.
Is it feedbacking through?
It's just a little bit. At least... Okay, I think it's gone. It's gone. What's going on, Jacob? It's good to see you. But yeah, like I said, we typically for domestics, like if they would hit their wives or something like that, we would have to go and arrest people. Or cops. Every once in a while it's for misconduct, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah, same over here. We don't really have corrupt cops. I think the closest thing to even corrupt I ever did was I think I had a drug dealer that ran from us, almost hit a kid in his car, wrecked out into a power line pole basically, and they went to go run from their car. We tackled him, and some of their dope money got blown into a field by this playground. I just kind of looked over and went, "Oh man, look at those kids! It's Easter early. They're getting all those green eggs." And this guy's just sitting there, motherfucking, "That's my money. That's my money. I didn't see any cash come out of that car of yours."
Sorry.
And to this day, I still think about how much money went to that schoolyard. I'm like, some kids probably went home with a Benjamin or two, and their parents like, what the
with like a latent meth or like cocaine.
Yeah, I didn't think that part through. As long as it wasn't like a fentanyl powder and the kids weren't dropping like big flies. I'm like, nobody's dropped over yet, so we're good. And they start falling over like dominoes. Start me every battalion in the state.
Give me all the EMS code.
Yeah, we need all the Narcan, all of it.
We're at 45 likes. Keep dropping likes if you can and sharing the stream so that we can get to 69 likes, mostly so we control Chris, but also so that we can have SWAT Theory eat this chip.
Myself, basically. I Googled some of the reactions to this thing, and I've been sitting here going, oh. So if you see me kind of wide-eyed while I've been sitting here quietly, I've been reading some like, oh, my stomach's going to hurt for 3 hours. My butthole's going to hurt when it comes out. Oh, no. Honey, go get the Pepto.
Poofy, thank you for the super chat again. Thank you for the question. If a zombie apocalypse or some airborne strain of rabies comes loose, how do you
2020.
Yeah, basically, to be honest. How do you think departments would respond, and how would you guys respond? I think it's going to be state dependent. I don't know that because we typically the way that this works is that your governor is going to say, "Is this a state of emergency or not?" Or is this going to be? There's a couple different ways that you could do this. But if it's like 28 days later, or like what is it? Daisy, or no, is it Daisy? No,
World War Z.
World War Z. There it is. Yeah, I would be more interested to see how the civilian population, because really police officers are part of the civilian population. Their just job is to go do stuff. But if emergency circumstances admit where like just the random people are getting bit or attacked or whatever, police are gonna respond, but it's gonna be sporadic response. Exactly. Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah.
There it is for me. Yeah, my this is the safe. Everything above that is the expendable ammunition, and everything inside of it's the just
important
bad happens. Yeah,
the expensive ammunition that works.
Yeah. So the I think police response would be to try to. I guarantee you, honestly, like let's say worst case, like it's totally crazy, kind of Walking Dead shit. Police would be there to organize civilians' response to. So you would basically have governors say, "Hey, we got a state of emergency. We got a bunch of crazy shit. I don't think we're immunizing these people. We're just trying to survive." Police chiefs would come up with a strategy to implement to police officers, and police officers would. I'd honestly be more. It would really come down more on the National Guard. To be honest, I think this is more of a military thing, but police departments would basically act as liaisons. This happens a lot of times when you have interagency investigations. So a lot of times, like if the FBI comes or if the ATF comes, they will come to our jurisdiction and say, "Hey, we have this plan. What can you do to help us?" So we'll block off a street, or we'll help knock down a car for a traffic stop or something like that. So basically, state resources are going to go to organizing a bigger response. But I think local police departments would be like I said, more along the lines of trying to organize the response, or being the intermediary between the state's strategy and then the actual, like how the boots hit the ground and what civilians do. That'd be deputizing a lot of people.
Yeah. I used to believe that, and then 2020 happened, and I realized how many dickless incompetents we have in power. So to answer your question in shorthand, you're all fucked. Yeah, and by you all, I mean everybody. Yeah. There's like when COVID happened, they're like, all right, show up to work if you can. If your family members get sick, stay home, quarantine for 14 days, even though you only need 4. Don't go anywhere without a mask on, which we've learned technically doesn't really do anything. Don't stop people in their cars. So all these instructions we were given was basically if something were to happen or we'd have to react, it's like, all right, we need to maintain order, but don't do anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and like that's, I think that's our expectations for how it should go down. And it is, you see this a lot of times with, again, active shooter situations and stuff like that. 90% of the time, everyone's plan does not work. And you have the handful of people that know what's up and have the skills and the equipment and whatever to go do it, and there's everybody else fucking getting in the way. Like, to be honest, that's most of my experience with active shooter situations, or just emergency situations, car accidents, whatever. Every time I've watched people pull someone who's clearly traumatically injured out of a car that wasn't on fire, and I'm like, what are we doing here? I'm like, what are we doing? Let's stabilize him and wait for someone to come with the back brace. And this guy gets to the hospital, and the first thing that happens is the hospital calls the police department, and my lieutenant's asking me if I extracted that guy out of the car. And I was like, no, because I'm not a dumbass. Hey, the car's not on fire. I don't know why you would extract him from the car. And yeah, he was paralyzed. That happened more than once, where I was like, yeah, unless you know what you're doing, what are we doing? So.
Oh God, that's true, and that's for any skill. Like we just had block training, and we had 2 current SWAT guys and 2 former SWAT guys in our block training, and just watching some people clear buildings, like stop. What are you doing? No, you can't just walk in the middle of a room with 4 doors in it. Come back. Just like knowing and it's not a dig at people not knowing the skill sets. Like if you asked me to do open heart surgery, I'd be sitting there like,
sure, good luck.
All right, can I use these to plug that pulsy thingy? Oh, that's the heart. Shit. Okay, heart. What? Oh, those are lungs. Okay, I got this. both hands, right? So yeah, no, and that's not a dig at people just entirely. It's just like you said, not knowing those skills is what really sets people up for failure.
Yeah. Rook, you got anything for zombies?
Yeah, I'm much more of the if something like that happened. All cops have our little fantasy plans of moving out to the boonies to the one guy who has a ton of land and just dipping.
It's very weird he just said that because Josh, didn't you and I discuss this and I showed you my base farm that's completely self-sufficient? Like, this sounds oddly familiar.
Almost like
we've been outed.
Has one of these plans in his apartments.
Yeah, no, the beautiful thing about him for that particular scenario is he lives here. His nearest neighbor on a map that says like this far is a mile. His nearest neighbor is like here, and then their nearest neighbor is like here. So it would literally be just a small self-sustaining society where we just check on each other with large caliber rifles with really powerful scopes from the top of corn silos.
Yep, big brain.
How's Terry today?
Yeah.
You're not going to like this. He's walking kind of funny in the middle of the road. All right. Well, he was a good dude. Let's stop this. Let's nip this in the bud. Yeah. Sorry, Terry. Like it's.
I hope you're not drunk.
Yeah. Fire a warning shot, I guess. No, didn't phase him. All right, taking out his kneecap. Oh, nope, he's still crawling. All right. Sorry, Terry. We'll take care of your horses.
Terry. We'll pour a little out for you.
Yeah. Be on top of the grain silo with like a bush light. Just, yeah, he liked it.
Shout out to everybody that's liked the stream so far. We're at 45 likes. We are most of the way on to 69 likes. Go ahead and share and like the stream so that we can A, make SWAT Theory eat this shit, but B, we can also talk shit to Chris so that we can say that we got more likes than him on his own stream.
It's a record to beat for him. What else was the most he ever
50?
got?
Fox, is it 50?
Oh man, we lost.
100.
Oh, okay, never mind. I don't know that we're getting 100, but shout out to them. Like it and share and do all those things. We'll see what we do.
I just saw the poll. Yep. I'm ahead 64-34.
SWAT there is like, my dick grew an inch.
Yeah. I am now up to 1 whole inch.
Yep. 1 whole inch. What would you do if a man held a woman at gunpoint? Shoot him. You shoot the man, but then the woman who's held at gunpoint tries to shoot you. Shoot her. I mean,
I know that's from Modern Warfare. I remember that exact same thing. Normally, that doesn't happen, but I will say we had to use one of those like Nintendo ray gun training screen things, and there's a bar fight where it's a fucked up scenario because there's so many times you could shoot one or the other, but a guy basically pulls out a knife as you're walking into the bar, and I think he pulls out the knife and starts like moving towards this guy. This guy pulls out a fucking gun. So then, then the person controlling it, if you say like police or whatever, I got to show him the control panel. Super cool. You can walk in and go, guy just sticks him in the chest, or you still do nothing. He can choose guy to shoot guy with the knife, or you can say police. They'll both look over you. Guy with the gun will point at you. Or my scenario, I say police freeze. They both look at me. The guy drops the knife, puts his hands up. Guy puts gun on bar. Other guy looks at him, looks at me, grabs the gun. And as I'm putting my gun at him, just picks it up and swing shoots this guy right in the head. It's like, that didn't work as well as I'd hoped. So guy gets shot. I shoot the other guy. And I went, that was fucked up, Lieutenant. He goes, I want to see how you'd handle it. And the good news is, it's just your side of the story now. So go ahead and take your public information officer course. But no, those screens are super cool. But that's one of the most messed up ones I've had. I've seen guys go in there and just shoot the dude who's actively pointing a gun at somebody. There's guys that shot the guy as he picked the gun up. You just never know. That'd probably be the closest thing, because most people that get taken hostage generally don't try and shoot at the police unless you've got a blood that takes a crip hostage, and that'd probably be the only situation that would happen.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Warrior Rage, for the super chat. He's asking if we can answer his question. I want to know what the question is. Did I miss it? I'm going to keep reading, but thank you for the super chat.
I found it. Is it just me, or do you think the hiring process in law enforcement is bullshit?
No. Well,
So
sort of. Go ahead. Sorry, Josh.
I'm gonna say parts of it. We still have to do polygraphs, which I think are the most antiquated thing ever, and are kind of a stupid reason to ask people. But I think physical standards could be a smidge higher, and I think that I feel like it should be more merit based. And the problem is like the people doing recruiting aren't the best cops to begin with, and so it aren't also like basically recruiting, a lot of these weird media, a lot of these ancillary positions that are occupied by sworn staff, typically you're kicking, like, it's not the best cops that go to those things, or it's not like the most qualified. It's like, hey, somebody, like, oftentimes like with SROs, a lot of times it's like they're not promoting to sergeant. They've been there for a long time. They're not going to SWAT, or they're not doing, so they just go to be an SRO and spend 20 years sitting behind a desk. It's a weirdly unique problem, because I posed the question, if you had to pick 10 friends, right, out of everybody, or 10 people out of everyone you've ever met that you would pick would be good police officers, and if you're wrong, it's going to cost you $10 million. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you go about, because there's plenty of people that were really underqualified, in my personal opinion, to be cops that have been able to do the job up until this point just fine. Mind you, they've gotten lucky because they haven't pulled that short straw, versus I've met guys that were fucking former Green Berets and shit and were incredible human beings, and they completely killed it in academy and completely crushed it in field training, get up and fucking 2 weeks under the job, go and shoot at a dog and kill a lady. Like, it's such a mixed bag. And then like the law enforcement context, and it's so much more complicated. Your ROE is very different. Your scenarios could be like the scenario SWAT got, in that you go into a bar and there's a guy with a knife and a gun. Like, there's no winning that scenario unless, I guess, you shoot the gun out of the guy's hand, and then happens to also, exactly, yeah. But like there's no winning that. And then even then, I guarantee you, let's say you're able to accomplish that shot, right? Frag's gonna go into some dude down the bar, and you're gonna fucking lose an eye, and you're still getting sued anyways. Right? And it's going to be a violation of GOs because it's considered a warning shot, not an actual deadly force thing. So have fun with your violation of GOs and getting fired anyways. So like, it's just
he moved, Your Honor.
Yeah. So I think, yes, it's bullshit because it's clearly not doing a great job. But I think it's a symptom of a bigger problem within law enforcement. And that is just people not understanding what police are and what they should be. Because that's why policy ends up being made the way that it is. That's why chiefs get picked the way that they're getting picked. That's why sheriffs are getting voted in for the reasons that they're getting voted in. And it's why city managers and city planners don't know what to do with law enforcement, because they have no idea what the job is. They have no idea what the job requires. And so, like, how do you recruit for something if all of those steps are broken? The military is a great example of this too, where back when all we were doing is fighting wars with the military, right? Fuck it, are you big enough to carry a gun? Can you shoot it kind of decently? Or are you going to listen to me when I tell you to do it? It was pretty much the standard, you know what I mean? And I laugh at the, I think it's India, that literally they will only accept people above like a certain height. And literally it's just a bar, and they walk everybody up, and either you meet the bar or you don't. It is that clear cut. And they have like a run that they'll do, like a timed run. And once the time has elapsed, fuck you to everybody that didn't make it. Like, there's no waivers, there's no nothing, because they understand what their military is designed to go do. And again, with us, it gets more convoluted because you have all these ancillary positions, and then what should we be teaching them, and should we be doing XYZ things, and you have a lot of other political things that get involved in those decisions. So law enforcement will forever be a very complicated problem to try to solve. And then recruiting, like I said, it's I don't know that it's going to get fixed, because I don't know that they even know what they're recruiting for, if that makes any sense. I'll let you guys try to answer some of this while I look for questions.
Oh, you're going to regret this. Remember how I say on occasion I say some shit that make people mad, and I'm not even drunk right now. This one's going to be rough, so I'm going to ruffle some feathers with this one. But I think equal opportunity employment is bullshit. Like this, like you said with the bar and the timed run, and there's no waivers.
Yep.
I mean, fuck those people. I'm trying to be as nice as I can, but you do not need put in a situation where you could be killed, where you will be at an extreme disadvantage. Like, this sounds antiquated, but with the days of they're like, oh, Johnny, I see you're here. You're 6'7", your knuckles drag the floor, and you seem to be able to lift 2 donkeys with one hand. I need you on the team, John. So, like, those, I mean, yeah, sure. Obviously, the brain power wasn't there to do it, and it almost sounds like I'm looking for like Spartans from Halo that are super fast, super strong, super smart, can think on the fly and shoot good.
Yes.
But that's what we need. We don't, and this, it's unfortunate because I work with them, but I told them this myself. If you get, we have several women on our department. One studies jujitsu. She does okay, but if you just lay on her, like we joked about it in training, and I said, so if I just bull rush you, because I'm almost a foot taller than she is, and I ram you into that wall, and then I grab you up with my arms, and I just lay you on the ground until you suffocate. What's your plan? And she just kind of looked at me and said, that's fucked up. I said, do you think someone who doesn't care about you won't try that shit?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds terrible, but the days of like coddling people and being equal opportunity employers, and we have the first trans police chief. What's their experience? They were in the academy for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So the meritocracy is dead. Like there should be a standard. I don't want, this makes me sound like an asshole, I don't want smaller people that don't have a legitimate way of defending themselves, that have no combat experience, have no martial arts experience, are weak in positions in the field where they can get hurt. And it's not me being an asshole. I genuinely took the job to protect people, and the last thing I want is some 90-pound, 4'8", however tall, whatever size person you are, go out there and just get throttled by some person because they can. I mean, obviously we give people guns to defend themselves and that shit, but
yeah,
it's like you said, like it's setting people up for failure, and I don't like it. I love the fact their heart's in it, and I want them to contribute in a way that doesn't result in them potentially getting hurt or killed. But
I love, and I'll let SWAT, I'll let Rook answer a bit of his question too, but I love football. I really do love football. You know, it'd be fucking awesome to play in the NFL. There's not a single coach, there's not a single training athletic director, whatever, that's going to let me, as a normal sized person, go and even practice with NFL players, because they're going to be like, they don't give a shit that you're small. They're not even malicious. They're just like, hey, my job is to do 10 out of 10, and I got a spot to make. And I swear, if this little turd of a human being beats me in this play, he could kill me on accident, because they're just that much bigger than I. And these are exceptionally humongous people, right? But like, it's a safety thing. It's not even that we don't like these people. In the same way that I don't belong in the NFL, there are people that do not belong in a place where fighting happens. I give this all the time when we do body cam breakdowns on Thursdays. I'm like, this wasn't a hard fight. This wasn't a motivated person trying to kill you. God was looking after you, and that's the only reason why you're alive.
Well, hell, there's the video from Canada just came out with that girl that got picked up and slammed into that guy's car, and it took like 4 other grown people to come over and pull that guy off her. Like, I felt genuinely terrible about that.
Yeah. And it's just, and like I said, it's why I giggle. Like, Bill, absolute stud muffin. You know, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but an absolute fucking stud. I'm not picking a fight with the guy, and I'm bigger than he is.
I'm bigger than he is, and I'd contemplate fighting the guy.
That's what I mean. I'm like, I don't know, man. This is going to be, at the very least, it's going to be unpleasant for me, right?
Right.
And so, like, if you look, and I had plenty of female officers that were humongous. I mean, like, absolute studs. They were damn near my size, right? If not, some were bigger. And they belong there. And I feel the same way about men as I do about women. It's not about your gender. It's not about your political beliefs. It's not about any of these things. It's, can you do the ultimate part of this job so that we're not all standing here with a thumb up our ass in Uvalde, right? Not doing anything. That's the one thing you don't want. Or worse, I have to sit here and watch a video where there's a cop getting beat to death because he doesn't know how to, or that they don't know how to protect themselves or do something. Ultimately, it is a violent job, what you're doing. You are not a ticket writer. And if that's the case, go write tickets and go work as an unarmed person that gets to just run when danger comes for you or whatever. Being a police officer is not that. and they too often try to recruit for something it's not that.
You absolutely hit the nail on the head. We actually have a woman she's a meter maid. I mean, she's armed to protect herself, but that's what she does, and she's perfectly content with it. She's like, I'm not out chasing down murders and stuff, but this is still a law. I'm still contributing, and people might not like it, but it's still kind of what keeps society together. The whole John Wick quote, rules. Without them, we're no different than the animals. So there's people that contribute, but yeah, people get mad when I say that, and I've told all of the woman that I have right now, her fucking leg is that big. I'm like, listen, I love where your heart's at right now, but if you get into a fight, run or survive, because you're going to have a lot of really big pissed off brothers coming to you, but you have to realize you can't go toe to toe with these people. And people hate when I say, you just don't like women. You just don't like these people. We have a female detective who used to be a fucking bodybuilder. She would mop the floor with me. I just want or as my good buddy in the Army said, if I'm on the front lines, I don't want to get shot in a foxhole and have some small physically unfit person sitting there trying to drag me out of the hole, and then they eat one of the dome, and now there's 2 casualties in this war. Yeah, he says there's a standard in the military, which, like you said, they're now making waivers. Oh, you can't do the pull-ups. You can just hold the bar and tuck your. What the fuck? How does that help anybody? Yeah. I mean, again, I get the fact the military is seriously short on recruitment, and I have my opinion on why that is. But still, I've already said enough to get you guys some flack. But there has to be a standard. For schooling, you can't just flunk out of school and go to an Ivy League law college, Yale, Cho, whatever those big schools are. You can't go to a fire department I once put out a grease fire in my kitchen, which technically is kind of a modern day feat. Yeah. So it's just, that's my opinion on the recruiting thing. But as far as the good side, the way we do it, I like it because we actually do background checks. We don't do polygraphs, which is a good thing for one of our best guys we have in the department because he was a horse semen collector when he was in school. Yeah, no, his job, he joked about it. I was like, yeah, no, I jerked off horses for money in college. What? He literally explained it. I'm not going to go off on that rabbit hole, but basically he got paid $5,000 a stud that he had to this barn that he was helping this guy do racehorse stuff. So they paid big money. He's like, I'm not proud of it, but if a polygraph question comes up as, have you ever done anything sexual with an animal? I sit there and go, yes. Yes. And I have to explain this whole thing I explained to you. So that's why polygraphs can be stupid. And if you're nervous, you can get false positives. But the technology is better. No, it's really not. You get a psychopath that I could sit there and go, the sky's green. And I actually did this before to a polygraph. They was like, hey, lie. The sky's green. I once grabbed a giraffe by its balls. My first grade teacher was the president. And the machine just flatted out. I'm like, but anyway.
And that's a fail.
Yeah. So.
Which is dumb, but that's a fail. Yeah. Rook, you got anything?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Kind of about going on being able to protect yourself and take care of yourself. There are a lot of positions for people like that. They may not necessarily meet police officer standard, but they can be put into more useful positions 100%. Investigations where they're out of the field. They're 100%. Not risking their brothers and sisters' lives or the civilians' lives around them, and they can still assist in those ways. They can be helpful. My biggest gripe, and I say this carefully because I'm not saying that you should just go hands-on with every single person that you meet and try to jujitsu the hell out of them. But over-reliance on tools is such an issue. And Chris would get really mad about me pointing this one out. But there was a really, really bad-looking incident at LAPD the other day. And it was 2 cops with their PR-24s. And they're barely swinging on this guy who, has assaultive behavior. It meets the criteria of them striking him. But he just walks up to them, sucker punches one into the ground, and shoves the other down. And they were standing within a 1-foot gap, just kind of hitting him two-handed with a PR-24. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Sure.
What are you doing? Hit that man like you mean it if he is attacking you, or grab him. What? And they're both doing it.
Yeah.
They're not communicating at all. They're not putting out radio traffic. They're just get absolutely embarrassed. Yep. And they're lucky that when they finally did put it out, other people came to help them.
You're absolutely right. We actually did that block training. they touched on that exact same thing. We get a lot of young kids that didn't play sports. They're not coordinated. They don't have strength. And we have that. Did you guys use the foam baton when you were at the academy? Like the white lightsaber thing?
Oh, yeah.
Ours
Those
are black,
things
but yeah.
sting.
So we had guys, but God, this is going to be, I don't have anything to simulate with, but they're basically holding it and they're like swinging these things like limp wristed and trying to like whip into it. And you're just sitting there going, I actually asked, I said, hit me. What? Right in the face. Hit me with that. And of course he does this kind of, okay, let me show you how it's really done. So I choke it back like a tennis racket and just boom, and you hear echo through the rooms like, that's how you're supposed to use these things. What is this Wingardium Leviosa bullshit you're doing? Stop!
Leviosa.
Leviosa. Sorry. But yeah, no, you touched on that and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm glad this is a national issue and not just a localized one. Actually, I'm not glad it's an issue.
Yeah, and having grown up playing sports and stuff like I played football. I grew up with brothers and uncles and stuff like that, and it violence wasn't unfamiliar. The level of violence I had to do was very weird for me. And I was a very kind-natured person. Like I didn't like fighting for fun. I didn't grow up like that, right? I had to learn violence, like real, like fuck you, my life's in danger violence, and that was even for me. And looking back on like my first year on patrol, I wasn't slow to go hands-on. I was slow to like going hands-on enough, if that makes any sense. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, grabbing someone's one thing, but like putting a motherfucker on a curb real quick, it's a very different. And also like the way you approach it. I was still trying to be polite, and I had a PTO pull me aside or an FTO pull me aside. I was like, hey man, I get it that you got lucky on this one. If that guy wanted to kill you, he would have. Keep that in mind when you're doing this shit. He's like, you got by because you're not a small female. You got by on that one because he looked at you and decided he didn't want to fight you. But I was like, if this guy was any bigger or if you were any more aloof or if I wasn't there is what he said. He's like, you won't always get a good backup. You won't always get a big guy behind you. You know what I mean? It might just be you or it might be you and some 5'0" female, right? Like fucking control shit. And once I figured it out, it made way more sense. And I was a lot like now looking back on it, I was like, fuck, I'm super lucky to be alive on some of that shit. But like, even that was new for me. And part of that's in the indoctrination process. And part of it, same thing happens in the military, same thing. Normal people that grow up in happy, healthy households don't make great cops right out of the bag. It's true because you're just not, everyone has to learn something to become a cop. Either you have the aggression and it's great and you're dumber than bad, you're a knuckle dragging idiot. So they got to teach you like the soft skills of interviewing people and understanding tactics and whatever. Or knowing how to like adjudicate a case through court. Like these are all very soft skills. Or you're the exact opposite. You're very intelligent. You totally get it. You're intellectually mature. You're emotionally mature, and you know how to do this job well and professionally. But like, hey man, it's motherfucking time, and like I need you to flip the motherfucking switch on. And so it's a very different. Most people fall on one side of that coin or the other. It is very rare without some sort of prior experience that you're getting a relatively new officer that knows how to do any of that shit or is good at both. I definitely had that personal growth.
You're right. And that's something that's not really brought up. It's kind of always in police culture. It's always kind of kept in the back room. So to give it to light, you give up a part of yourself. You have to. Growing up, I was the same as Josh. Great family, parents still together, successful sister, great family. I got one cousin went to prison for dealing meth, but other than that one little goat, a little black goat in the family, or black sheep. Yeah. Other than him, which is ironic because all of us are cops and he got busted dealing meth. I'm like, you. So thanks. He's out now after he did his time, but afterwards, Thanksgiving was kind of weird. It's like, so what'd you learn?
What'd you learn?
But no, it does cost you something. There's been times when I've either said something or thought something out loud. And I've had my grandmother and both my mother look at me kind of shocked and go, who are you?
Yeah.
Yes. It's you. I came from a place where violence was, schoolyard fights, you get your snot punched in with your friends because you got into a disagreement, to these people don't care and are willing to kill me. And it was a little bit like Josh said, like I'd kind of like sheepishly turn around, put your hands behind your back or, kind of get a hold of someone's clothing, not their actual, like dig your fingers into their traps. I had to very quickly go from being like the big teddy bear everybody called me growing up is to this fucking monster in a cage you have to let out. And you have to come to terms with that. you kind of have to become the thing you hate. Otherwise, you're just going to get eaten alive. Like now, it's gotten to the point where I'll tell rookies, or I'll see guys do this shit, and I'll have to get in there. I'll put my hands over there, and I'll just squeeze on this guy and like, sit the fuck down. And then they'll look at me like, what? And like, dude, you gotta, you gotta take control of this guy. He just beat the fuck out of his brother. Do you think he cares about you? He's gonna attack his own family, and you're some stranger coming in. So you're absolutely right, Josh. A lot of guys won't talk about it, like, no, I didn't change. I was born for this job. I'm like, bullshit. You go back to look at how you were.
You give up a part of your.
Yeah, you give up a part of yourself when you take the job, and it's part of. It's something that you're not proud of and nobody talks about, but that's something else that happens when you take it, because you just have to live with violence in a cage. And when somebody says or does something that makes the hair on the back of your neck go, this isn't good, you have to be like, there's been times I've watched these guys with a methed out guy. He's sitting there bouncing around the boxer's position. These two guys are like, put their hands out, like,
sir, please stop. Sir, please.
Yeah. Please I literally walked in between these two, and I just devil-eyed this guy as I walked up. And in his doped up state, he's looking at them, and there was a moment of clarity, and he's like, I fucked up. Because I walked right up to him, fucking underhooked one of his hands, went over his shoulder, and I hip tossed this guy so hard I threw his foot, or his shoe like 8 feet in the air, a different direction, and he hit the ground so hard I felt it in my legs. And then I cuffed him. I'm like, "You're welcome. I'll write the use of force report." And I walked off. And afterwards, we talked about like, what are you guys doing? Again, new guys into it. Like, well, we didn't want to get hurt or hurt him. Fuck him. He's ready to knock your teeth in. I mean, the time for talking's done. I mean, he already brought his weapons to the fight. You're just going to sit there and be like, please stop.
I have another question, and this is interesting. So, Rook, have you been written up yet? Like, have you gotten any level of discipline yet? Like, formalized, no. Not like talking. Okay, so this is something else I want to bring up. So, I didn't get paperwork until I think it was like I was 2.5 years in before I got my first like actual like, hey, like we have to formally, and I knowingly and intentionally violated general orders for this. But like once I accepted the fact that like that was going to happen, that also changed. That was another level of change in my mindset. Of I stopped thinking about like my job so much, and I started thinking more about like my safety and the people around me's safety. Weirdly enough, getting written up was one of the most liberating things that ever happened to me. Because I knew policy, but I thought less about policy while I was doing something. Or at least I thought about it as, okay, so I'm going to violate XYZ policy. How is this going to pan out in my report? That's an interesting... You have not gone through that, thankfully, and it's not a pleasant experience, but I know SWAT and I have already had conversations about getting written up and knowing that sometimes, hey, man, I will take my safety over some paperwork.
I got written up twice in the last month.
There it is.
My partner's going through some of it right now, and we'll talk about that afterwards, but it's not pretty.
Well, and like I said, it's vicarious liability is the reason why write-ups happen. And basically administrators say, if I'm not writing people up, they're going to think I'm not holding officers accountable, XYZ, so on and so forth. It's going to happen. I think if you're a good cop and you're doing it, and that might sound super crusty of me or whatever, but like in general, especially nowadays, I don't know that there's a single use of force that occurs that's not violating some aspect of policy. They choose not to enforce that policy violation because the outcome is good. If the outcome's ever bad, then it starts to matter. It's really 9 times out of 10, that's really where it is. What's going on? Alexio, like the stream. We're at 48 likes. If we can get to 69 likes, SWAT has to eat that spicy thing on his shoulder.
We're getting kind of close. I think I'm going to have to go for the guys.
There's another one that was up here. Can I be a cop in the U.S. if I was not born here but moved here when I was 18? I think in most places you have to become a naturalized citizen before you can become a police officer. However, the military will allow you to be a MP and earn your citizenship while in the service, and then you can come out, and I think you could, but not straight from overseas to being a police officer here.
Yeah, that would be a little weird anyway. Hello, everybody. This is Irving. It's his first day. Здравствуйте. My dad's Irving. Chief, I have a question. Does he speak English?
Yep. And And really the big reason why, and a lot of people won't talk about this, is ITAR, which is an acronym. I don't remember what the fuck the acronym stands for, but basically we are not allowed to teach a lot of the stuff that we teach police officers to foreign people. Like, unless you're a citizen of the United States, you are not allowed to get formal instruction on firearms training. Not allowed to do it. Even if you're visiting, you're hanging out, taking a vacation here in Texas, I can give you a gun. I can make sure you don't shoot me or somebody else. I can show you how it works, but I cannot train you in any level of official capacity, or it's like a big no-no. And mind you, getting in trouble for that's super rarely enforced. However, ITAR rules are very, very clear. And that's why, as a police officer, and that's any official capacity person where your duty is, it's going to be security. You can't even be a fucking mall cop. Because it does require some level of training that does involve firearms, and ITAR does not allow for. And the reason being is because, again, SWAT and myself and I don't know how far along Rook is on some of that. When I learned room clearing with a rifle, I was getting taught stuff that was basically SEAL Team 6 taught some guys, and those guys taught my SWAT guys, and my SWAT guys taught us. And so that training, it's not that it's like secretive or whatever, but the skill sets and having that experience, they try to protect that, and that's what ITAR is there for. So
yeah, it's the International Traffic in Arms Regulations.
There it is. What were you saying, Rook?
I'm saying, you guys got rifles?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot you're in California.
You guys have 10
Big L and
rounds in your pocket or whatever. Yeah.
We are exempt. We're just, department doesn't love us anymore.
Yeah.
Get yourself a Benelli M10. Just as baller.
Speaking of ITAR, though, we actually have quite a few Canadian cops that are now cops here in California. Really? So I don't know if that's a Canada specific thing, or if they became nationalized and that was okay. But yeah, we have quite a few down here, actually. They were cops up there, up in the north, and they came down here and they said, no, we're tired of Canada.
Might be dual citizenship.
Yeah, it might be something like that. Yeah. That's interesting, though. I've never, we're too far away from that to experience that, but that's interesting.
Yep. Where I live, we don't have SBRs banned. We don't have suppressors banned. We don't have magazine capacity bans.
Heck, you're about to get non-NFA suppressors maybe in Texas.
I don't. I have my opinions on a lot of that stuff. The NFA is bullshit. But I actually, do we have any other questions before I ask a question to all of you guys?
Hold on. I'm making sure. What do you think people would say people got bullied? I think most people that get bullied in school do not. And I'll say this. If you were getting bullied in school, the bullies are the assholes, not the person getting bullied. I will say that there's a weird narrative that people play out. Well, he got bullied in school, so now he's taking out that frustration as a law enforcement officer. It is so much easier and way more fun to just be a sick bastard killing people than it is to become a cop. To go, like, most of being a cop's really unpleasant for the police officer themselves, and there's not
really
a lot
fun.
What the fuck? Yeah, no. So all I'm saying is, if that's what gets your socks off, and I had to take a lot of classes on criminal behavior and the mindset of a criminal. If my whole thing is to want to have power over other people and hurt people, you're not going to go and become a cop. There's way too much, especially, again, we have polygraphs, we have background investigations, we have all this kind of shit that you have to go through to go become a cop.
You get fired for misgendering somebody. You're exactly. Absolutely right.
Exactly.
There are so many things you can't do as a cop.
If you want to go and you got bullied in high school and you want to go hurt people, go become an 11 Bravo in the military and you can go hurt people all you want.
Jesus Christ. I'll tell my friend. She just roasted him.
And so that's just what I'm getting at. That narrative that gets talked about a lot, it's a political talking point. Most of the people that have not just the physical ability to do it, but also like the presence in mind and the confidence to not just convince a police department to hire them, but also to be good at the job, weren't the ones getting picked on in high school. I'll tell you that. Most of the cops I met were not those type of people.
I hate to be that guy in the room, but I got bullied a lot in school. But it was because I was a fat piece of shit and I didn't do anything to better myself. So. But things are better now. Yeah.
Well, what I'm getting at is your desire to get into law enforcement wasn't. Well, I got bullied, so I want to bully other people. It's like, I know what it's like to be subjugated and treated like shit, but I don't want that to happen to other people. I know what it's like to be helpless, and I don't want other people to feel helpless.
No, absolutely. And I wanted to be a cop since I was like 8 years old. My dad was a deputy, so it fucking was. I think I'm in trouble. Yes, dear. I'm in trouble, I think. What were you saying?
Bill's in the chat, and he said SWAT's Russian sounds kind of good. That's kind of sus. Shout out to Bill. I miss your
У меня
face.
есть один карандаш.
You stop that shit.
Нет. Сука, блядь, Rushby.
Let's see. Sergeant George is making fun of me about my feelings about Axon in the chat here. You said you had a question for us, so I'm looking up for one. What's your question? SWAT.
Oh, right. Sorry. Now that we're caught up. So, something. Okay, I can't really incriminate myself here, so I'll just try to put this as plain as I can. The upcoming alleged brace ban or regulation, or how do you think that's going to go as far as law enforcement goes? Because I know in our department, a lot of us have pistols, except for one mad lad who is the 11 Bravo you're talking about, who made an exact replica of his M4 he had, not select fire though, that he carries in his trunk. That motherfucker is a surgeon with that thing at 50 yards. It is incredible, but he has to carry his paperwork and all that shit. So what do you think is going to happen? Because I don't know how they're going to regulate like millions and millions of these pieces of equipment that are also ADA protected.
Yeah, I have my Texas answer, but I'm really actually interested to see how Rook feels about this because he's already dealing with a lot of this stuff already. But I know in Texas, most police officers are not going to be allowed by law to enforce that in Texas. Now the feds can come in and do it, but like they're not going to have state, county, or local law enforcement that's going to enforce a federal restriction on something that Texas state law doesn't prohibit.
God bless Texas.
Yeah, because we're fucking cool like that. But I will say, like, if they were gonna try and do it, I don't know how you would, to be honest. And then the other part of that is, I think that ultimately this is going to become a state by state thing where I think the feds they just don't have. They're going to have to rely on local intelligence to enforce these things. So I really only think it's going to be getting enforced in places where it's easier. They're going to pick the low hanging fruit first.
Make examples out of people.
Yeah. That's my theory, but I would be curious to hear it from a California police officer as to how he believes that might work and how it currently works as far as enforcing firearms laws that are unique to their state.
So, as you know, California has an ungodly amount of gun laws, and a lot of people really get worried about them. And yeah, they're pretty easy to enforce when we contact people because people always try to carry stuff, whether they're supposed to or not. It's a misdemeanor, so it's kind of up to our discretion. But I don't know how that's in your states. Is it felony if you guys conceal carry without a license? I know Texas just became
we're constitutional. So
okay.
I can't say one way or the other for me because I value my privacy, but yes, we are one of the halves of the states that do or don't.
Okay.
Yeah. I think generally most places, if you have to have a license, it's going to be a felony because most places unlawful carry of a firearm is going to be felony, and like specifically in Texas, like if it's 5150, so you're carrying inside of a bar, it's going to be a felony because it's an unlawful carrying of a firearm versus just because the carrying of it's not the prohibited part; it's where you happen to be carrying it.
Okay.
And those are all felonies, no matter what.
Yeah, the gun laws in California are pretty strictly enforced. I mean, it's just when you come across it. Right now, we're really having a big problem with manufactured firearms. There's a lot of manufactured firearms, like, man, just for
the old ghost guns.
Yeah, ghost guns, like every day picking them up. Not me personally, but like my department. It's an everyday thing, and we have teams dedicated to going after them. They just have factories of like we'll find like 100, and it's like all gangbangers. Yeah, see, but people like gun owners, like previous cops, or like just people who like their guns, doing their thing with like their 80% whatever. They're not going to get caught because they're not doing stupid shit like
that's true,
mass producing them or like selling drugs and carrying it for protection. They're enjoying themselves in the Second Amendment, and they keep to themselves. That we're not really going to come across them. We come across the gangbangers who are like, oh, this is a nice cheap way to produce firearms, and we can sell them for really cheap.
That's true.
I was gonna say, if people were smart, they just fucking 3D print them. You can't stop the signal.
Yeah.
Look. It's a 3D printed
Yeah.
firearm.
Yeah, I've
they
tried to
probably
get my
tell
printer
us when
running.
It's the laws. We mainly use them just to jam up people who are already criminals and just to make their lives a little worse as much as we can before we get to jail and the deputy says, "All right, book and release. See you tomorrow."
Book and release. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much how. Like I said, Illinois is going to be doing it soon, so hopefully that bullshit stops there and doesn't keep moving out once people get seriously hurt. Or my theory, like the book and release thing, they get blew up and they go to a different state where they won't extradite, and then they murder somebody else there and whatever. Josh, there was a question from Bad Donuts or Boom Donuts. I think that we missed. And
kind of a dumb question, but I like nonsensical questions like that. Oh, okay. Here it is. Is it the dance battle question?
I think it was, yeah.
Okay. We're at 52 likes. We are 17 likes away from 69. So keep hitting that like button, and we might get a really spicy SWAT outtake here while we're live. You guys have how many minutes here is left?
Almost 3:30 for me. I've got to about draw the line there, unfortunately. But if it makes it, I will do it next week because I have next Saturday off too.
So get us to 69 likes.
Yeah.
We're at 52. We're almost there. Keep liking and keep sharing. What would you do? I guess, what is it? It was, what if you arrive at a bank robbery or hostage situation and the bad guy was like, I challenge you to a dance battle. And he was serious about it.
Can I give my answer for this?
I want to hear yours, yes.
So, has anybody seen the Mr. Peabody movie with like the French guy that gets tased? I'll link the clip later. I fucking lost it in the theater when it happens, but basically the French guy's like, I challenge you to a duel! And he's like trying to like swing this rapier in the cop's face. He just goes, blah, and he just zaps the guy and he falls over. I would, along the same vein, if he dropped his gun and started like getting ready to get down, I'd be like, all right, I'll start. I choose the electric slide. Falls over and flops on the ground.
The electric slide.
That's pretty sweet.
That's my answer.
We're at 53 likes. It gets spicy. We're almost there. Do you have an answer for this one, Rook?
I cannot. I couldn't dance to save my life. So
he's white too.
I would definitely get a hostage killed if I tried to do a dance battle with this guy.
I have some moves. I don't know that I'm going to consider myself like a dancing virtuoso, but I could save some hostages. It depends on the capacity of the offender here. Let's see. Pine corners in real life. Would you take a quick peek around it, or strafe around and walk like how video games are more realistic, or would you Ready or Not made by Chris shoot? So in general, they're saying like, is quick peeking a kosher skill? I'm not a team quick peek kind of person, because if I'm quick peeking, it's really hard to quick peek with a gun in your hand, pointed at the thing that I'm peeking at. But if it was a building search where, shout out to Chris the Cop, he made it into his thing. We're at 53 likes. And then shout out to Jinja Ninja on his super chat. I will get to your super chat. Thank you, Jinja, for the super chat. I will get to your question here in a second, but I've never utilized a quick peek while doing a building search. I don't do them anymore, but I've never done it.
So I'll answer that question right after I get back from checking the cage that Chris broke out of. I got to figure out what's wrong there. No, so there are. So first of all, depending on the situation, clearing rooms is a good way to get yourself killed.
100%.
So, per our SOPs, the only time we would ever do a quick peek is during an active shooter, and you're just it would be a combination of pieing the room to kind of like tissue box. So it's much harder to be shot when you're giving this much of a target versus doing this around the door. So as you're slowly kind of like, guns here, okay. Here, okay. There, okay. And you've got to move quick, so you can't sit there and pussyfoot around going, do I hear anybody? Is there anybody there? So quickly, if it's like, that's the corner of my room and say that safe was the door, I know that there's nobody behind that corner because the door is going to open and smack into the wall. Or it already is there, and I can see it's not protruding out. So check behind the door frame. Cool. Quickly peek in the room. Like, I mean, just enough to kind of get your eye in there and go, nobody? Okay. So if you do get shot at, A, action beats reaction. So unless this guy has see-through vision, they won't see you. But B, it lets you go, okay, room's clear, next school room or next office room, wherever this is, until you hear shooting again, then you'd run. But for our team, no, we don't use quick peek. Like we very slowly peek as we approach a corner, and then once we can see into a room, you keep your gun stays there until you're like, all right, who's with me? Tap up. All right, we're going. And then left, right. You just got to be in the room that quick. You can't give somebody time to pick a target. You have to throw off their fucking OODA loop of, okay, got to, and then they're dead. So yeah, that's my take on it. And that's again, only if you've got, only if you're by yourself, the quick peek, two guys and an active shooter, you'll pretty much do like a button hook, ring around the rosy, kind of both go in. Okay, nobody here, next room. And you'll both move on to the next room looking for the shooter. But that's about the only scenario that would be viable.
Rookie, do you quick peek?
No, absolutely not. It's typically smooth movements through the rooms in a large team. And if we have a small team, depending on what we're working, if we need to move slow or we need to move fast, it's
And I'll be honest, and SWAT's probably the most. He actually is. It's not that
he's going to know the best.
Yeah, he's going to have the best, most up to date tactics on this because that's his job. But if I felt like a quick peek was appropriate, it would be more of a dynamic entry into that space, or I would just very quickly pie it if it makes any sense. But I'm still going to try to leverage as much of a positional advantage as I can while I'm doing that, just because it's the safest way to do it. It's also the most effective. If I see the shooter and I'm quick peeking him, I can't shoot him until I put my gun up there. So like, why waste that split second if I don't have to? So a dynamic entry is not ideal, but it's accomplishing the same thing. But at least my gun's pointed at where I'm looking at, and I can evaluate, see it, and shoot it a little bit quicker if that's the case.
Yeah, and even for us, there's times where even the whole team, like, we won't go into a room if we have an active shooter, but actually I'm going to stop there because that violates my self rule of talking about tactics. But yeah, so basically the only time we use a quick peek is by yourself active shooter, and like that is like the only niche time you would ever use it, just because you're trying to save time, save kids' lives. Uvalde looking at you.
Yeah, you motherfuckers.
Yeah, thanks for taking us back 30 years to Columbine, you bunch of fucks. Anyway, yeah, that is the only time you'd quick peek, and that's per our department. Other places, your standard operating procedure might be to go into that room. It might be you have to pie every corner, which, again, touching on the pieing thing, even in like top-down shooter strategy games or whatnot, or even real life, you can only cut so much of that corner off before you have to break the threshold of that door and get that last like 5-10% of the room.
Yep.
So yeah, I think we thoroughly put quick peeking to bed.
We're at 58 likes, and I have a super chat we got to address here. Go ahead and like the stream. And Chris, yes, I saw your comment. They asked, have we ever gotten into a situation where we had to argue with another agency about arresting someone? Yes, I happened a lot, actually, where I was at. I will let y'all answer this. SWAT might have to go here in a second, so if he's got something to add, I will let him answer it, and then he can deuce. And then we'll finish the stream.
Sorry, my brain turned off for a minute.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Have you ever had to get into an argument with another agency about arresting somebody?
So, yes, but no. So we got called to do a joint assist for a different county, and when we got there, it was for their warrant, which was fucking like misdemeanor disorderly conduct or something warrant. But they called the SWAT team, well, whatever. And so we basically get this guy to come to the door. He's doing the typical dickhead stuff. He's not responding. He has nothing in his hands. He's just being a prick. So we sent a team in the back door, and they ninja'd up to him. It was the greatest thing I've ever seen, was seeing a guy get shield blasted out the front door into the front lawn, like a really fucked up episode of Law and Order, as the whole SWAT team's arresting him. So the problem came in that it wasn't really our warrant. We were just being used as an escalation of force, if you will. Yeah. So we're standing on the side of the road with this dickhead in handcuffs, and we're like, he's not ours. And the deputy's like, yeah, you did it. And they start driving off like, hey, this is your problem. This is not our paperwork. This is your problem. But you put him in handcuffs. It's your fucking warrant, and we're 40 miles from home.
Yeah, what do you expect me to do? Yeah.
Yeah. He's not going back to our county. So then they're like, but you, and they just kind of shut down. But that's the closest I've really had to arguing about who's taking who to jail. Other than that, unless it's like something that you just want to put your chest out and get a medal for, a lot of places like, fuck it, he's your problem. Take him. Just put me on the arrest pad. Thanks.
Yep. Yeah, Rook, do you have anything? Or wait, SWAT, do you have to go?
No, I can sing out for a few more minutes.
We're at 60. We're 9 likes away.
So close.
I'm so excited.
If I take my like away, I'll handicap you.
Rook, do you have anything to add to this?
I haven't had a negative experience with other agencies.
Fucking must be
yet,
nice.
But I have taken several crime reports for other officers and other agencies. Not from them, about them.
That's hilarious. We had a semi-contentious relationship with 2 of the jurisdictions that butted up against ours. And my biggest issue was they would run an investigation, right? And say that a portion of that crime happened in my city, even though we were not in my city anymore. And I would get called out there and I'd have to work it. And I was like, okay, but you could arrest him for a crime or I could arrest him for a crime. It doesn't matter. But currently I'm sitting outside of my jurisdiction. So like, what are we doing? Now, if you're not going to arrest him and I choose to arrest him on mine, that's fine. But I can append in a report to yours, but he's in your jurisdiction. So what are we doing here? I've had a few of those. And then there's the other thing where like we argue about where it occurred. And this happens a lot of times on interstates. And there's signs posted on where my jurisdiction ends and theirs begins. But sometimes in between, you have to kind of figure it out because there are resources, city resources that are being allocated and everyone gives a shit. But generally, I was having this with smaller municipalities, these discussions. And if it was a smaller municipality, we'd take it 9 times out of 10. Unless it was something pretty egregious, because we have the resources they don't. We can afford to lose 4, 5, 6 officers on a call to eat up that call, and they really can't. One officer has to take a DWI, and that's 20% of their manpower for the evening. So we would take it more often than not because I was a bit. Now the one agency that was closer to us that was bigger than us, we never had that issue because they were awesome. Shout out to Fort Worth PD.
Yeah, just she said that, and it made me think of something. We've also had the issue where we work in a city inside of a county, and the sheriff's office will do stupid shit in the city, but then have us come take care of their suspects, even though they have jurisdiction because their county encapsulates our city. We've had those arguments a couple of times too.
Yeah.
You know what? That just reminded me of this thing. It's a little off, but a few weeks ago, and unbeknownst to me, I didn't know they did things like this until it happened. We got a 911 call. They saw some 5 people exit a truck, and all they heard from their residents was "get on the fucking ground," and that's all we got. And we were like, "What is going on?" Well, we get there, and it's state fish and game wardens undercover.
Oh shit!
Executing a search warrant, doing undercover stuff, and I'm like, "What are you doing? You're in our jurisdiction, sir. You didn't tell us you're doing this. You didn't think that was a good idea?" He's like, "No, we do stuff like this all the time." I'm like, "Oh, that's great. Okay, you're proud of it. Cool."
So when you do that and get shot, good on you.
Yeah, we rolled up 8 deep, absolutely unveiled on these guys, and I was the first one up, and I'm like, "Code 4, it's fish and game," and I was so upset.
I tell you where that doesn't happen. Texas. That does not happen here.
Yeah, I didn't know they did undercover stuff and search warrants. I was like, what? I thought you guys were forest cops.
Yeah, no, even dude, we've had the fucking FBI and the U.S. Marshals and the ATF and everybody come to our department and go, "Hey, secret squirrel shit. Have your officers not go here. Make sure dispatch knows we're doing stuff. Just say it's a search warrant, whatever. Don't shoot us."
Yeah,
it's not that hard to do good teamwork, guys.
Yeah,
come on.
So we have run towards the tail end of when we're here, and I don't want to run out of time to give goodbyes. You guys failed at 62 likes to get us to 69 likes, but if somehow magically while we're signing off it gets there, we will hold.
Oh, fuck you.
We will hold SWAT to this on the next stream.
Yeah, there's next week. We'll try again.
Yeah. SWAT, go ahead and give your sign off if you have anything you want to tell the audience.
I think I've said pretty much enough to get myself canceled, so I won't go back to my drown the sack of puppies comment I said earlier. No, always a pleasure to be here. Hope to see Chris again. Hopefully he didn't break the cage too hard. That thing wasn't cheap. If you want to see more questionable stuff, I haven't posted in about a month because, as I said earlier, I've worked way too much overtime this month. But I plan on posting videos again. Actually, that's what I'm going to start doing when I'm done here. So come check me out. I say a lot of really dumb stuff. I have fun doing the least tactical stuff and the most tactical game I've ever played with these guys. I play with Only Cops, Chris, 68 Whiskey. Hopefully Rook will join us. But yeah, wild card bitches.
He said wild card bitches. We're at 64 likes. Rookie, do you have anything you want to say?
Oh, no.
I just appreciate you guys having me. It was a good time having these conversations and just kind of explaining things that people didn't understand, just swapping stories.
We do this on Only Cops, which is where I'm from. I'm Josh from Only Cops. We do this every Thursday where we actually break down body cam footage and stuff like that. If you'd like to join us, you can. We also want to give a big shout out to Chris the Cop for obviously being the bastion of good information that he is. He's half the reason why we all know each other. We've all kind of been brought together through Chris the Cop. We could thank Poofy, one of our little angels that runs around tying internet cops together. And I want to thank Fox Commander for hosting the stream. And I want to hopefully Chris the Cop didn't hurt himself getting out of the cage that he's in, that cage being California. And I want to thank SWAT for joining us here, and then for Rook for your service, because he decided to be a cop in California. God bless your soul. Thank you for your service. And go check out Only Cops. Like I said, we go live twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday. We do Tactical Tuesday with Chris, which you guys should all see anyways. And then on Thursdays, we have a body camp breakdown. We have some other stuff that's in the pipeline with Chris that we're going to be trying to do. And I know that he plans to be back on his normal streaming schedule starting on Tuesday. So as Chris always says, you can always make the world a better place with just a kind word and a smile. But you know what helps is having Only Cops run your channel, and it ends up being a lot better. So until next time, thank you guys for joining us here live. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Deuces. Fox Commander, take us off.
Can he beam us up like Scotty?
Yeah, like Scotty. This will live on the internet for forever. You got the 64 likes. You really cut it close on that.
I was reading the comments. They're like my husband did that and he didn't feel right after. I'm like, I've made a huge mistake.
Is he not going to take us off alive? He's got the power.
Oh, 1 sec.
Wait. Oh, God, thank God I didn't take this thing off. I thought about doing it, too. I was like, it's about time.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm in the clear.
I'm in the clear. We're still not in the clear. You guys are getting B-roll after the fact now.
Yeah, this is what happens normally. My shirt comes off.
It's already out of YouTube. 1 second.
Oh, no.
We're going to be on YouTube for a while now.
Can
you just kill the stream on OBS or something?
God, it's like every 5150 I've ever dealt with. He's hacking my lights. He left the oven on all day.
That's so
man,
funny.
you just forgot to turn the oven off before you went on a bender. Okay, I can see the meth on the table.
All right.
You'll be fine.
Ending. Just wait a few seconds.